Now, if you somehow haven't heard yet, it is official that the Clone Wars animated series will be coming back for 12 more episodes that will essentially finish the series off. And though we don't know exactly when we'll get them, though I guess it'll be sometime next year, we do know that they will be airing on Disney's new streaming pay service. Anyway, before we go on, this is where I offer a bit of an apology to anyone who's ever asked me if I thought this could happen, that the Clone Wars could come back, because I've always said no. I flat out just couldn't see it ever happening. I didn't see them going back and finishing this up, especially when you consider they'd released so much information and even partial or incomplete episodes that would have been part of the final couple of seasons. Not to mention they gave us Dark Disciple and Son of Dathomir, both of which were originally going to be story arcs but got turned into a book and comic series respectively. Then when the Ahsoka novel came out a couple of years ago and basically told us how it all would have ended with the Siege of Mandalore, I thought that was about the final nail in the coffin and we should give up on this dream of ever seeing it completed in animated form. But thankfully, many people didn't give up on this seemingly impossible dream, and if this announcement proves anything, it's that at least someone at Lucasfilm is listening and trying to give fans exactly what they want, because they know keeping fans happy is the key to a successful and profitable franchise. And to answer the question that is no doubt running through a lot of people's minds right now, no, I don't think this is a direct result of the fan backlash over The Last Jedi. I think the decision to do this happened long before that movie ever even came out. Now, why do I think that? Well, for one, these shows take a long time to produce, and with that being the case, it's hard to believe that in the last 7 months or so, since the release of The Last Jedi and subsequent backlash, that they have greenlit the project and will have it ready to go, almost certainly, with the debut of the streaming service. And let's not forget that at last year's Star Wars Celebration, Dave Filoni hinted that there were other animated projects in the works and that fans were going to be really excited. Most likely, this is what he was referring to then. And lastly, when you factor in that many companies see streaming services as the future, it makes sense that Disney would want to have as much subscription bait as possible ready to go at launch so that this new service stands out from the ever-growing crowd. In other words, this isn't their way of apologizing to fans, this is simply their way of selling a new service. And honestly, if it means getting more Clone Wars, I don't really care what the reasoning or motive is behind it, because as we all know, at the end of the day, Disney and Lucasfilm are trying to make money off Star Wars. That's no secret or great mystery, and we can't fault them for that. If Star Wars doesn't sell or stops being profitable, they'll stop producing content. So a decision like this one, creating something that a large percentage of your more dedicated or hardcore fanbase wants, is just smart business. No more, no less. And as this poll begins to suggest, though, of course this is a small sampling size, this is something that a lot of fans wanted, myself very much included. I absolutely loved the Clone Wars, especially the later seasons. It is, and I don't say this lightly, some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten anywhere. Movies are great, yes, and will always be the main attraction, but when you can slow down and tell a story over 100 and some episodes like the Clone Wars did, you get the chance to do some amazing world building, not to mention further build upon some of the legacy characters like Anakin and Obi-Wan, and also create memorable new ones like Rex, Ahsoka, Ventress, and so on. Not to mention, the Clone Wars makes the prequels so much better. They complete them, in my opinion. And yes, I fully believe the story told within those 3 movies should have to, and be able to, completely stand on its own. But in many ways, it didn't. I mean, it's kinda odd that at the center of the prequels are the Clone Wars, and yet all we get to see of them within the movies are the opening battle and some of the closing battles. We never actually get to see what this galactic scale war did to the galaxy, or those who fought in it. In other words, we don't get to really live and experience them with our characters, so we can't understand the impact upon the galaxy and, of course, the characters. The Clone Wars animated series gave us all that and more. It gave us the context the prequels were somewhat lacking, in my opinion. And now that story of the Clone Wars itself is going to be brought to completion. And yes, I do think these 12 episodes will be it. I don't think there'll be multiple seasons coming. The intent is to give us fans, and Dave Filoni himself, who multiple times has expressed regret about not getting to finish the story, a proper ending to a show they loved, though I wouldn't rule out the possibility of more spawning from this. Because, and spoiler alert for the solo anthology movie here and going forward with the rest of the video, but the inclusion of Darth Maul in that movie suddenly gets a whole lot more interesting when you consider these final 12 episodes of the Clone Wars are going to be dealing with him quite a bit. And by that, I'm of course referring to the Siege of Mandalore, which is almost certainly how the show will end, where Ahsoka, Rex, and a battalion of clone troopers go to Mandalore to help liberate it from Maul. So I personally wouldn't be stunned if there are even more plans going on behind the scenes than just the Clone Wars coming back, but maybe even another animated show after that, designed solely for their streaming service that maybe follows Maul and the formation of the Crimson Dawn and the criminal underworld in general, and it could include characters such as Kira from Solo. The show could even be aimed at a slightly older crowd, unlike Resistance, which continues to give me the impression it will regress even further from what Rebels was compared to Clone Wars, and be a show truly aimed at children, not too much unlike Forces of Destiny. Though a lot of us adult Star Wars fans, especially those obsessed with the canon, will still watch it. And yeah, I know this sounds like a lot of wishful thinking at best, but I honestly could see them doing something like this. Again, they will need and want to sell this streaming service and to keep people signed up for it. Yes, the live-action Star Wars series will be on there too, and that alone had me ready to fork over my monthly fee. But there really is an opportunity to produce multiple shows that will do more than just attract the core audience, but could also attract different audiences on the fringe by offering different Star Wars experiences, much like how on the Marvel front, they have multiple different types of shows running across different channels and platforms that appeal to different demographics, but are likely all still watched by that core group of Marvel fans. Anyway, what the return of the Clone Wars may or may not foretell about the future aside, I'm just happy to have the show back, even for 12 more episodes. This is some of the best and coolest Star Wars news we've gotten in a long time, and that's coming from someone, The Last Jedi aside, who has enjoyed a lot of what Disney has done with the franchise thus far. It's kinda odd, but I almost feel like we get the impression that the two sequel trilogy movies have, for better or worse, been a separate entity from the rest of what Star Wars is doing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below, because it's likely that in next week's Let's Talk Some Star Wars video, I'll be delving into this very topic. And in short, what I'm basically asking here is if you've been generally happy with what Disney has been doing with Star Wars outside of the sequel trilogy, and mainly I mean the interconnectivity of it all. How everything is feeling like one giant connected universe outside of the sequel movies, which feel like they only worry about appealing to the mass general audience and don't seem to take anything from the other sources of canon into account. Okay, also, I want to invite anyone and everyone out there to rewatch, or maybe watch for the very first time, the Clone Wars animated series with me, all 6 seasons. And though I don't mean literally with me in the same room at the same time, though that would be cool, what I and several of those who support me on Patreon have decided to do is to rewatch the Clone Wars in chronological order. And how we plan to do that is to basically watch a few episodes or one story arc each and every week, and then at the end of the week, discuss them on my Discord server. And after which I'll make a video reviewing those episodes where all of you will get the chance to weigh on them as well. So if you're interested, the first episodes we're going to be watching, and again, we're doing this in chronological order and not necessarily the order they were released in, are Cat and Mouse, which is actually episode 16 from season 2, followed by Hidden Enemy, which is actually episode 16 from season 1. We'll also then be watching the Clone Wars movie this week. And just to make it easy on you if you want to participate, I'll post the names of those episodes in the description below, as well as a link to the official chronological order list. And if you're interested in discussing these episodes as we go along, or Star Wars itself with me personally, a $1 a month donation to my Patreon gets you access to my Discord server. A link to that will be in the description below. And if not, as I said, I'll be doing a review video hopefully every weekend as we go, where everyone can get the chance to discuss these episodes. Also here, I want to give a thanks to Star Commander for letting me use some of his fantastic artwork for this video, and to invite anyone else out there to either send me your work or links to it so that I can include it in future videos. I'm also looking for those of you who would like to create art specifically for my story videos, and yes, I know, many of you have offered to do this already, so if you're one of those people or would like to essentially sign up, please send me an email at the address in the description below. I'm currently still working on adding new art to my version of Episode 8 called The Lost Jedi, so if you're interested in that, again, send me an email. Lastly here, next week I do plan on returning to my more traditional format for Let's Talk Some Star Wars by delving into your comments once again. And the topic again for next week is going to be whether or not you feel Disney and Lucasfilm are doing a good job with the other sources of canon outside of the sequel trilogy movies, or if you feel it's all been good, or if it's all been bad. Well, that's all I've got for this time, which means it's once again your turn to tell me what you think about the return of the Clone Wars, the handling of the canon, or whatever else might be on your mind. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.